डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकर ओपन युनिव्हर्सिटी.
Hello friends, Namaskar. You are all welcome to Indian Poetics organized by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University. Our today's unit is Kavya Hetu and Kavya Prayojana. This is a very important topic which discusses the causes of poetry, the aims or goals of poetry, the purposes of poetry. Why is poetry important? That is an important question which has been discussed by theorists and poeticians and critics all over the world. In English literature also, W.H. Hudson, in his famous book, Introduction to the Study of Literature, he has discussed the causes of poetry, the impulses behind poetry, the major themes of poetry, and why is poetry important. In this unit, today we will discuss about the concepts of Indian poetics presented by Indian theorists. Mammat, in his famous book Kavya Prakash, has discussed the purpose of poetry and the causes of poetry, the goals of poetry and aims of poetry, like W.H. Hudson. So, let us discuss this. You are all welcome to this beautiful topic, because it is necessary to understand why is poetry important. And in fact, what is poetry? In past, particularly in Indian poetics, the word kavya included all literary compositions. Kavya simply did not mean poetry or poem. Of course, in Gujarati, we have two words, kavya. They are Sanskrit words, of course, kavya and kavita. Kavya refers to poem and kavita refers to poetry. Poetry is a general genre, while poem is a particular poem. So, when you read a poem, it is a piece of poem which is different from the general concept of poetry, which is a part of poetry. But in Sanskrit poetics, kavya included all other literary compositions like Mahakavya, Katha, prose narratives, Akhyayika, Champu, and so on. This means that the word kavya in Sanskrit poetics is quite general. It includes not only poetry, not only poems, but all other genres of literature. Sahitya, in fact, kavya includes sahitya. So, let us discuss it. Kavya includes all literary compositions in Sanskrit poetics. So, as I told you, Kavya includes all literary compositions. It includes epic, katha, prose narratives, and many other forms of literature. It is a fusion of word and sound. What is Kavya? It is a fusion, combination of word and sound. It provides aesthetic delight to bhavakas. And the main purpose of Kavya is to provide aesthetic delight to bhavak. The word bhavak is very important in Sanskrit poetics. Bhavak is not just an ordinary reader. He is Saradaya. He is highly sensitive, highly appreciative. He possesses the same quality of the poet. We may call it, poet has Karayatri, while the Bhavaka has Bhavayatri. Poet is a creator, but Bhavak is the one who responds to the creativity of the poet. R.A. Scott James, in his book Making of Literature, says that a good reader walks on the same way where the author, the creator, has walked. He experiences the same experience, same bhavas, same aesthetic happiness, like the creator, like the writer, like the artist. So this means that Bhavaka is artist number 2. He stands, though he does not write, of course. He does not write poetry. But to understand poetry properly as a Bhavak is very important. Without proper Bhavak, poetry has no value. What is the use of poetry if there are no appreciative Bhavakas or readers? It is very necessary, very necessary. Rasikajana, art is directly related to Bhavakas or Rasikajana. There should be rasa in the mind of the Bhavaka. If the Bhavak doesn't have this creative capacity or aesthetic capacity, aesthetic understanding, the poetry would be meaningless. In Gujarati, there is a very humorous poem. Once a merchant who sells different things in his shop meets a man who plays on a flute. And the flute player was very artistic. He could impact good bhavakas. But he went to this merchant and began to play on a flute. He wanted to please the merchant and get some money. But the merchant said, "What is the use of playing on a flute? Flute is like bamboo. Can you play? on this stick like wood. In Gujarati, of course, there is a word called sambelu. This means that, can you play on this? What is the use of playing on a flute which is made of bamboo? It is possible for everybody. Now, this merchant who is 100% a bhavak, he didn't have any quality of bhavak, any quality of rasikajana, only money-minded man. He just humiliated the flute player and said, can you play this heavy wooden stick? Now the same thing applies to modern art also. If people don't understand art, if you see a picture, not film, but painting, and if you don't understand what is the beauty of the painting, you are arasik jana. And arasik jana cannot appreciate art. So bhavakas are highly important in all arts. Without bhavakas, art has no value. It is combination of word and meaning. We know that art or literature or kavya is a combination of word, shabda and meaning, that is artha. It requires creative genius, and art requires creative genius. Creative genius is pratibha, which comes from your inner. It is like a blessing from God. And that is why, even today, we believe that when a young boy or a girl starts writing poetry, it is the blessing of the muse, the blessing of Vidya Devi. It is the blessing of Kala Devi or Saraswati. Without the blessing of Saraswati, it is not possible to write poetry. It is pratibha, which is inborn, innate, which comes from your birth, right before your birth. And that is why it is very interesting to know that you cannot become a poet just by trying to write poetry. Poets are born, artists are born. You cannot become a great painter like Picasso. You cannot become Michelangelo. You have to, you must be born with some inborn qualities, which is called pratibha. And pratibha is something that comes within you right from your birth. And of course, from psychological point of view, it may be the part of genetic science, it may be the part of DNA and so on, it may be the part of cultural background, but the main thing is the source of pratibha is already there. And that is why a creative artist should have creative genius, creative capacity, which is called pratibha. Kavya hetu. What are the causes of poetry? Kavya prayojana, objectives or goals of poetry. Now these are the two major things. Kavya hetu means what are the causes of poetry? What is the hetu, cause of poetry? And Kavya prayojana, what are the objectives or goals of poetry? Kirti and Priti. Kirti means fame and Priti refers to aesthetic delight experienced by the readers, bhavakas. Now Kirti and Priti are important causes of poetry. Kirti refers to fame, yasha, it means you become famous as a poet, and poet, the famous poet is always respected by the readers, by the lovers of literature. And the greatest thing about writer is, or creative artist is, even after thousands of years, the poet is always remembered. Even today we remember Veda Vyasa, we remember Valmiki, we remember Kalidas, we remember Shakespeare, and all great artists of the world. And that is why it is said that Tulsidas was born or brought up in the same time when Akbar was the king. Now, Akbar may be forgotten. Of course, only in the history he is referred to. But Tulsidas is popular all over the world. In our Ramacharita Katha, Tulsidas still prevails in our heart, in our culture, in our religion, and that is why poet gets kirti, attains kirti, which is almost eternal, perpetual, never forgotten. Actually, the entire culture of a country is based on the kirti of such great poets and writers. Priti refers to aesthetic delight, and Priti is aesthetic delight, which is experienced by readers and bhavakas. Even today, when we read the Ramayana or Ramcharitmanas or Mahabharata, we experience aesthetic delight. It is called Priti. These are the causes of poetry, two main causes of poetry. Kavya Prayojana refers to Anand, eradication of avidya, the causes of human sorrow. Kavya Prayojana, that is the objectives of poetry, refers to Anand. The Prayojan of Kavya, the goal of poetry is Anand. The word Anand is quite different from pleasure or Sukha. Anand is a divine quality, and that is why we use the word Paramananda. Anand is something which is beyond physical level, beyond material level. It is divine joy which makes you happy. It provides you ecstasy, like samadhi, like dhyana, and so it is called Ananda. Anand is the main prayojana, main goal of Kavya. The other is eradication of avidya. Avidya means ignorance, and vidya means knowledge. When there is avidya, there is unhappiness, there is human sorrow. But if avidya is removed, eradicated, there comes happiness, there comes ananda. Avidya creates problems all over the world. Here the word vidya does not mean learning in a school or college. Vidya is knowledge and avidya is ignorance. Ignorance always causes human sorrow. In Indian philosophy, there are 4 pillars of human life: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Now these 4 pillars of life are dharma. Dharma refers to righteousness, duty, or religion. But however, the word religion has a limited meaning because it becomes an institution. It is true dharma is not an institution. It is not religion, but it is a way of life. It is righteousness, and it is the duty towards society, duty towards the entire universe. That is called dharma. And that is why, in the Bhagavad Gita, the word dharma has very great importance. Dharma also refers to one's nature. When we say this is the dharma of Kshatriya is to fight against evils. And that is why Lord Krishna tells Arjun to fight against Kauravas. And he says that it is your dharma, it is your duty, it is your nature, it is your swabhava. You are not a sannyasi or a brahmin, you are a kshatriya. And it is the duty of the kshatriya to fight against evil. Evil should be eradicated, and that can be done through dharma of Kshatriya only. And that is why Lord Krishna says, I will destroy the evil and create happiness among good people. And he says, Sambhavami yuge yuge, I will come, I will be born again and again to eradicate the evil and create goodness in the society. That is called dharma. This subject is so important that one can discuss it for hours together. Artha. Artha refers to wealth or money or material necessity, happiness. Without money or wealth, it is difficult to live in this world. But artha often creates many problems. Like Bhishma became slavish to Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana simply because he was under the domination, economic domination of Kauravas. Arthasya dasa. He became the slave of money, slave of wealth. To be slave of wealth is a big problem in human life. Money is not unnecessary or unimportant, but to become the slave of money is the greatest evil. Then comes kama, which is a desire. The word kam actually means desire, and it refers to sexual desire also. But desires are of many kinds. Due to kama, the world goes on. Without kama, without desires, without lustfulness, there would be no procreation, there would be no generation of living beings. Finally, there is moksha. Moksha is to be free from the cycle of life and birth and death. Once moksha is achieved, a soul merges with the universe. That is called moksha. In Indian philosophy, all great writers, all great poets, all great philosophers have discussed moksha. Moksha is liberation, emancipation, freedom. And poetry refers to these four pillars of human life. It often discusses dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Kavya achieves these goals, and through kavya, these goals can be achieved. Communication is the basic hetu of kavya. The basic cause or the basic hetu of kavya is communication. When I want to say something, I want to communicate something, I can communicate through kavya also. So the basic idea, the basic hetu, the basic goal of kavya is communication. Poets want to share their feelings, thoughts, and experiences. And the poet wants to express and share his feelings and thoughts and experiences. Bhavak should also be sensitive and sahradaya. As I had already discussed, Bhavak should also be very sensitive and sahradaya. Then only he can experience or receive proper communication of the creative artist. W.H. Hudson said that the desire for self-expression, the desire to know about the world of reality and imagination are the causes of poetry. W.H. Hudson says that the causes of poetry are desire for self-expression. The creative artist wants to express himself or herself, and he wants to know about, he or she wants to know about the world of reality and imagination. So these are the three basic causes of poetry: desire for self-expression and desire to know about the world of reality and the world of imagination. There are two worlds actually. The one is the world of reality, which is not so beautiful, but the world of imagination is far more beautiful. Without imagination, human life would be very dull. Imagination is very necessary. Very often people think that science believes only on reality. But even in science, imagination works. For example, man could never travel to the moon earlier, but H.G. Wells wrote a book called it is about a journey to the moon. Now, after many years, NASA could go to the moon. This means that it is possible. First of all, it was an imagination only, and imagination turned into reality later. And that is why imagination, the world of imagination, is also the world of science. It creates science, it creates reality. One must have dreams. If you think of an ideal state, ideal country, that is also imagination. But that imagination turns into reality later. So, the world of reality and imagination are also the causes of poetry. Rajshekhar said that the poet has Karayatri Pratibha, creative genius, and readers have Bhavyatri Pratibha. Rajshekhar was a poetician who said Karayatri, that is creative, genius, and readers should have Bhavayatri Pratibha. Readers should be pure bhavak, very sensitive, very rasikajana. Then only he can respond to what the creative artist has expressed or written. Dandin presented three causes of poetry: Naisargik Pratibha, Nirmala Shastra Jnana, Nirmal Shastra Jnana, and Ananda Abhiyoga, that is application of genius. According to him, the causes of poetry are Naisargik Pratibha, natural Pratibha, Nirmal Shastra Jnana, pure knowledge of Shastra, and Ananda Abhiyoga, application of genius. Rudrat and Kuntak said the causes of poetry are Shakti, knowledge of texts and literary works, and Abhyasa, study. Vaman said that the causes of poetry are Loka, that is world knowledge, the knowledge of the Laukik knowledge, that is the knowledge of the world, Vidya, Gnan, learning, and Prakrira, miscellaneous. Muhammad said that there should be inborn power, proficiency in worldly conduct and shastras, and practice of composing literary compositions. Muhammad also says that there should be inborn power, innate power, and then proficiency in Shastra, knowledge of Shastra, and then the practice of how to write poetry, literary compositions. Pratibha is the main cause of poetry. However, Pratibha, which is inborn quality, as I had told you earlier, that poets are not born, poets are not made, but they are born. They come with a genius, with Pratibha, which is an innate power. You cannot teach anybody to write poetry. Writing of poetry cannot be taught. It can be the part of inborn power. Kavya Prayojan refers to purpose of poetry. And according to Bharat Muni, dharma, artha, ayu, well-being, buddhi vikas, and lokik gyan are the goals of poetry. According to Bharat Muni, fame, long life, well-being, buddhi vikas, and lokik gnan, the knowledge of the world, are the goals of poetry. Muhammad said that poetry gives inner happiness like Kanta Samita Upadesha. And Muhammad says that poetry gives you happiness, as a beautiful wife advises her husband very lovingly, and the husband believes because his wife presents her views, her wisdom, in a very beautiful manner. So poetry is like a Kanta Samita, Upadesha, effective and soothing advice by beautiful wife. Rudrat said, elimination of suffering, freedom from ailments, and attaining desired boons are the purpose of poetry. And Rudrat said that to be free from suffering, from diseases, and attaining desired boons are the purposes of poetry. Anand is the basic goal of poetry. And basic goal of poetry is joy, which I told you that it is like a meditation, it is like dhyana, it is like samadhi, it is an experience of the divine joy. Objective correlative, the idea of T.S. Eliot, universal impersonal feeling. And T.S. Eliot had said that the true poetry presents universal truth, universal feeling, not personal feeling. The writer should avoid presenting his own personal feelings. If the poet is unhappy, he should not express only his unhappiness. Even if he does so, it should become universal. When a poet loses some relative, the death of the poet's relative causes great sorrow in his heart. But this sorrow should not be personal in poetry. It should be universal, because everybody loses some relative, sometimes, anytime. This is the eternal sorrow. Sorrow is not personal. Sorrow is an eternal, universal experience of mankind. Poetry is not turning loose of emotion, but escape from emotion. And T.S. Eliot said that poetry does not mean to attach oneself to emotion, but one must escape from emotions. And finally, just a few words on Western views about purpose of poetry. Many Western artists believe that art should be only for art. It has nothing to do with any social concern, moral concern, criticism of life, nothing. That idea prevailed for some time, but ultimately today we believe that art should have some purpose, and particularly this purpose should be for the welfare of mankind, welfare of human beings. It is criticism of life, escape from personal emotions. And as T.S. Eliot had said, poetry does not present personal emotions, but escapes from emotion, entertainment, manoranjan, which is the important part of poetry. Social concern, there should be concern about society. The poet should express social problems. When somebody is suffering, this suffering should be expressed as a social concern. Aesthetic pleasure, it provides aesthetic pleasure. It is also the desire for self-expression, and it is pleasure and welfare of society. And William Wordsworth had said that poetry is a breath and spirit of all knowledge. Now with this, we end our lecture, video lecture. Thank you for being the participant in this video lecture. I recommend you to read more and learn more. Learning is an eternal process which should never stop. It should continue forever. Thank you very much. Thank you.
स्वाध्यायः परमम्